Greetings, scholars. My name is Wormwood, and this is Hanzi Etymology. Today we'll be taking a closer look at the character qi, which means air, gas, breath, life force, weather, etc. We tend to think of these two characters as the simplified and traditional versions respectively, but in the Shoven they are listed as separate characters. The entry under what we today think of as the simplified character reads qi, yun qi ye, xiang xing, meaning cloud vapors, a pictogram. In other words, according to the author Xu Shen, this is the original correct character for writing air, gas, weather, etc. As for the entry under the character considered a traditional version, it reads like this: xi, 贵科之除米也，聪米气生. Or, in English, to present food to guests, from rice semantic plus qi phonetic. Note that even the readings are slightly different. Cloud vapor is read as qi, while presenting food is pronounced xi. Before we continue, Shoven lists two alternate glyphs for xi. The first one preserves the rice component, but switches out ji as the phonetic component, telling us that ji and qi were homophones or near homophones during the Han Dynasty. This will come back a little bit later. The second glyph tautologically adds the food radical shi to xi, and as we'll see in a bit, this is most likely a later creation. Qi is a very old character, appearing already on oracle bone inscriptions from the Shang Dynasty. Here, qi is written as 3 horizontal lines, which depict layers of clouds in the sky, supporting Shoven's explanation from earlier. However, we never see it used in the original sense in the oracle bones. Instead, qi was borrowed phonetically for the homophone qi, meaning to arrive or up until, as in the following: 以资气于, which roughly translates to, according to these signs, it's likely that rain will arrive. In the bronze inscriptions, the top and bottom strokes of qi were curved to avoid confusion with the character for 3. This slightly altered character now looks much closer to what we see in the modern form. In the bronze inscriptions, qi is used in 2 ways. Same as in the oracle bones, to mean arrive or until, and by extension also to end, but also to write qi, meaning to beg or to pray, also to give something. The first usage can be seen in the Tianwangui from the early Zhou dynasty, 批客弃阴王嗣, or the Shang king was defeated and his rule came to an end. The second meaning, to pray, to beg, and to give, can be seen in the Huanzi Mengjiang bronze kettle, 用其家命, 用其美寿, to pray for royal favor and hope for a long life. On the bamboo slips from the Warring States period, we see qi used to mean arrive and beg, same as in the oracle bones and the bronze inscriptions. But we also finally see the appearance of qi, meaning vitality, life energy, except it's written like this. So what's going on here? Remember the alternative character for xi earlier? At the top of this character, we see the same phonetic component ji, and at the bottom we have huo, fire, as a semantic component. This version appears in several texts, notably Taiyi Sheng Shui, Shang qi ye, er wei zhi tian, or in English, above are the vapors, which we refer to as the sky. This character appears a total of 28 times in various contexts. This is by far the most common way of writing qi that we find in the excavated bamboo texts, though we also see other variants, like this one, which has qi vapor on top, also serving as the phonetic component, over fire at the bottom. Both characters share the fire component, giving its association with warmth, strength, and the element of yang. This is probably also why qi later on would develop into meaning anger, as in the expression 生气, getting angry. After the Qin unification, we see our earliest example of xi, or the steaming rice character, which appears in Qin legal texts, exclusively used to refer to giving grains or to give food, identical to what we see in Shoven. Now that we know that qi was often read as qi, to beg, this opens up an extra dimension in explaining xi. See, in ancient China, giving and receiving were seen as two sides of the same coin. So, for example, begging for something and giving something were treated as the same action, only from two different points of view. We see the same thing with the character gai, which in ancient times meant both to beg and to give. With this in mind, we can now explain xi both as a compound character and a semantic phonetic character, where qi plus rice can be read as giving rice, while qi also shows the pronunciation. The Han Dynasty is the first time we see the character xi borrowed to write qi, with the original word now written with the food radical, just like Shoven said, while the simple form qi remained in use in the sense of to beg or to ask for, also to arrive. However, the simple form qi was still used as a component in compound characters to mean gas or air. Though the word qi, to beg, would later be simplified further during the Song Dynasty to the form we see today, the steaming rice form of qi remained the standard up until the modern day, with some exceptions. I won't go too deeply into the cultural, spiritual, and mystical connotations of qi. That's a video for another time. But suffice to say, many Taoists felt that using just one character to express the various aspects of qi was not enough. So to distinguish between some of these meanings, they would use several alternate glyphs for qi, used alongside each other in the same text. In order to avoid confusion, in this video I will be referring to them as belching fire qi, steaming rice qi, and cloud vapor qi respectively. The first one, belching fire qi, is seen almost exclusively in Taoist texts, although it probably has very little to do with chugging gunpowder to attain immortality. The top is often mistakenly identified as wu, but is in fact ji, to belch, also phonetic, plus fire at the bottom, i.e. to belch fire. This is perhaps referring to the steam that emerges from your mouth on a cold winter morning when you're up at the peak of Mount Tai training your qigong. It could also be a variation of the Warring States character which we saw earlier, only with the phonetic element ji simplified to, well, ji. In Taoist writings, the belching fire qi is used to refer to prenatal qi, called yuan qi in Chinese medicine. That is, the limited life energy we are born with, which one can attempt to cultivate through various practices, including but not limited to asceticism, meditation, martial arts, alchemy, and so forth. Furthermore, steaming rice qi refers to what is called gu qi, or in English grain qi, or food qi in Chinese medicine. This version of qi is used to refer exclusively in these Taoist texts to refer to the energy gained from digesting food, thus the rice radical, indicating the 5 grains or food in general. Finally, cloud vapor qi is used to refer to the air we breathe, which Chinese medicine calls zong qi, ancestral qi. In both Taoist philosophy and Chinese medicine, zong qi and gu qi combines inside of our bodies to form what is called postnatal qi, aka zheng qi. While not as pure as the prenatal qi, postnatal qi exists in far greater quantities and can be more freely spent within moderation. Outside of Taoist contexts, we also see some other variant characters of qi, like this one, where the rice radical has been drastically simplified to just 2 dots, or this character with the sun radical added, used to mean solar qi, the warmth of the sun. As a component, qi was historically used mostly semantically, in words having to do with air and gas, like qi, to dry up, but also water vapor, most commonly seen in the modern word qi. This character can be seen as an evolution of the original sense, which is why qi is also phonetic here. Qi fen, atmosphere ambience, with qi on top and fen phonetic at the bottom. Yin yun, dense mist or smoke, again with the qi radical on top and the phonetic components at the bottom. Kai, anger, rage, hatred. Similar to qi, water vapor, qi is here both phonetic and semantic. and can be seen as a specialized form of the sense of becoming angry. Apart from these examples, qi is also more rarely seen as a component in specific variant characters. See my videos on tian and di, respectively. In modern times, several new characters using qi were also invented to represent chemical elements such as yang, oxygen, qing, hydrogen, lü, chlorine, etc. Being such a culturally important concept, qi was naturally borrowed into other languages that came in contact with Chinese. One notable instance is the Japanese kanji ki, where the right radical has today been simplified into what is basically an X shape. Another borrowing is the Vietnamese word hơi, which means simply gas, which in Junom is written with xi phonetic and either a mouth radical or a qi radical as the semantic component. Qi is also one of only a handful of Chinese words that have entered into the English language, either directly as qi or via Japanese when it's pronounced as ki. While it is technically correct to call the simplified version of qi the original form of the character, the history and evolution of this character is far more complex than you might at first expect. Thank you for watching. Which version of qi did you guys like best? Please like and subscribe for more content, and if you have any questions or requests for future videos, please leave a comment below. Until next time, scholars.